Hello students, in this video we're going to learn your social and political life chapter number 1 on equality. Students, we all know that India is a democratic country. India is that kind of country which follow democracy. Now students, we have already learned in your last class, that is in your class 6, we have already learned about some key elements of a democratic government. That includes people participation, the resolutions of conflict, and equality and justice. Koina nakoigi mamangda class 6 ta democratic form of government, that means democracy gi key elements khara koina discussion tawkre ko aduda koina discussion tawgibaduda kai discussion tawkrake aba matamda people's participation, the resolutions of conflict, and equality and justice sigumba khara se khoi tamkre ko aduna akoina tamgriba adugumba makhalgi key elements mayam jingsigi manungda equality is a key features of democracy and influences all aspects of its functioning. Aduna akoina discussion tawgriba adugumba makhalgi key elements mayam jingsigi manungda khwaidigi important oiba adugumba key features ama hairagadi equality ni ko aduna equality habase democracy gidi, that means democratic form of government dadi equality habase yamna maru oiba adugumba features amani ko aduga ngasai democratic form of government se mahaki functions mayam jingsibu functions laiba adugumba makal makha kaya marumgi functions mayam jingsibu utilize tobo matamda equality habase yamna important oi ko. So student, in this chapter, what we're going to learn or what we're going to study is what is equality, why is it important, and whether or not everyone is equal in India. Equality habase karino, democracy da equality se yamna important waribase karino, aduga India da lairiba mipum khudimak loinamak chap manabra haibana singba siguma makhalgi topic mayam jingsini akoina sigi chapter number 1 nakoigi social and political life ki chapter number 1 on equality hariba chapter sida akoina discussion tawduris. So student, nakoigi sigi chapter se on equality hariba chapter se discussion tawba matamda Kanta Devi haidana domestic worker amagi mahaki wari dagi akoina starting tawgani ko sagi sigi on equality hariba chapter se masigi chapter sida yauriba equality gi maramda discussion tawbasida akoina ngasai Kanta Devi hariba domestic worker se mahaki wari dagi akoina haugadoini ko. So now let's start our lesson. All of you look here. You can see some people standing here. Sida mi khara lai ko sigi se queue ni sida lepiba mayam se sigi hanba makoi manga na semiba queue sida yauri se teacher yaure, trader yaure, student yaure, domestic worker yaure, adugidi domestic worker amagamu yaure. Adugidi masigi queue sigi makha chatharakpada next page to yawi masigi queue se aduna sida amuk laire. Sida lairiba mayam jingsida saigi queue se mamangda aina hojikta utkriba adugumba mi manga aduna semgiba queue do madugi continue ni sida laise ko sida yawi se artisan yawi, housewife, consultant, government officer, media person, unemployed, and industrialist. Aduna mi makhal kaya marum amana semba adugumba makhalgi queue ni sida yawi se ko. Now and again come to your page 1. All of you look here. Masigi queue ni sida yaurise aduna masigi queue sida lepiba mayam jingse makhal makha kaya gi different types of people kaya marum ama mayam punna leminaraga laiba adugumba makhal gi queue system ni ko adoita di hosi Kanta Devi gi mahaki wari haurasi ko. Sigi story se koina discussion tawba yamna important oyaba masigi on equality hariba chapter sigi maramda akoina hen understand taunanaba honabada yam important oyba duguma makhalgi story ni ko. So we have to discuss this story very carefully. On election day, Kanta and her friend Sujata are waiting to cast their votes. Election numit kini aduna ngasai gi mamangda lepkriba adugi queue do kemta nate vote thada bala pada ngasai gi election da vote thada bada vote thadaba lakpada lepa adugumba makhalgi queue neba aduna ngasai queue sidai lepa matamda ngasai Kanta Devi hariba nupisiga mahaki friend Sujata Kumari hariba ngasai Kanta Devi sisu domestic worker ni aduga mahaki friend Sujata Kumari hairisisu domestic worker ni aduna makhoi ani sina queue lepminaba matamda moibani na saba wari duni sidai ihan hana yaurise sidai Sujata na Kantana mahaki mamanabi Sujata sida hairamiko mahangna kari haina hairamge haba matamda isn't it good Sujata that we can all vote as equal citizens of our country. Country amada lairiba citizens kudimak chap manana vote thadaba phangba haibase masi afaba natra haidana mahangna hangi ko. Even Jain Sahib is standing in the line with us. Saigi Jain Sahib hariba miyoise mahaksu akoiga punna akoina lepiba line sida mahaksu punna lepminaraga mayam lairiba citizen kudimak chap manana vote thadaba phangbase masi yamna afaba natra haidana mahangna hangi ko. Aduda ngasai mamanabisina phai hedana hari aduda ngasai sida mahangna paliba Jain Sahib hariba miyoise atai kanasu nate ngasai mamangda yawgiba industrialist ni ko aduga ngasai industrialist wariba Jain Sahib haisi karamba miyoino haiba matamda Sujata sina thabak suriba ngasai mana thabak suriba imungdugi yumbuduni masigi Jain Sahib hairisi aduna mahangna kadino mana hangise mana thabak suriba imungdugi yumbuduga mahaka punna kiwa matangda lepminaraga vote thadaba phangba haibasi masi afaba natra haidana mahang hangbuduni ko sidai sida hari en makasum chatharakpa matamda mahaki turn yore ko mahak vote thadaba changdore adudagi ti mahak vote thadaba change vote thadaba matamsida mahakna khalleba mahakna vote thadage ngasai ki karamba candidate da mahakna vote thadagadage haiba matamda makoi ki area da pipe water porakani haidana washa amba adugumba miyoiduda ai vote thadage haidana mahangna damaina khallaga thadarammi sigi matek sida aduga then next come to your next page. Then next mahakna vote thadaraba matumda ngasai mahaki saheb adu chatkiba aduga mahakna just sai wari ngahak saraga mahaki saheb to makoi vote thadaba lorga chakre makoi ju vote thadaba lorga lae aduga mahakna vote thadaba lorga lakpa matamsida mahaki mamanabi ngasai Sujata sida mahakna hairamiko kamaina hairamge haba matamda magi ngasai machanupi Guria hairiba machanupi se fever yam kana tawre aduna mahak hospital da ai pugadoini haidana mahakna hairami aduga mahakna machanupi punanabagi damakta ngasai makoi gi saheb ki house mayum sidai sida mahakna thabak subaje kitangana loisalaba matungda advance lawraga mahaki machanupi se mahak hospital da layengba pugani haidana mahakna hairamiko dagi mahak mayumda yaure mayumda yauraaga ngasai machanupi anaba sigi mahak manakta mahakna changaga sai anaba kamai tawri kholi na khara fagalaba kholaba haidana mahakna hange aduga mahakna mo hairise ai thabaktagi halaga evening da nang hospital da pugani ko haidana mahakna hairame machanupi sidai sida and after that mahakna machanupi da adugumba wahai khara hairamaga mahakna ngasai saheb ki yum sidai sida thabak chuba tholakpa matamda mahakna makhoigi area sidai sida laiba adugumba amot akai ngasai nala adudagidi nala amotpa makhoigi area sidai sida amotpa na pik thaliko aduna sigumba amotpa mayam uba matam sidai sida mahakna khalleba aigi ichanupi sina yam toina nari sidi akoigi jaga se sungseng sengdoktaba yamna amotpa jaga ama oibajani ko haidana mahakna dumaina khalamiko. And then come to your next page. dumaina khallaga mahaki saheb ki yumda yaure aduga mahaki saheb ki yumda thabak suba matam sidai sida makoi gi saheb tugi nupi mem saheb sina mangonda nangna tairiba waido corner jing dusu yauna yam phajana tayu ko haidana dumaina hairamiko. And after that mahakna advance hanga kanda ngasai gi saheb sigi nupi makoi mem saheb sina mangonda mahaki advance to pire advance piraba matungda mangonda kari hairamge haba matamda don't make a habit of it ngasai advance lobagi habit sidi nangonda laiganu haidana dumaina di hairai but mahaki advance to budi mangonda pire aduda mahakna no madam adugi habit to thamoi haidana hairai ko sidai sida and after that mahaki advance advance lauraga mahaki machanupi je mahangna hospital da puraga lai ko hospital da puraga lakpa matam sidai sida saigi machanupi je layeng gadori ba hospital sidai sida ju queue je aduki matik changna lepaga lairame aduna nga saigi bo thadaba matamda mahakna lepkhriba adugi queue daga hojiki hospital da lepammi ba queue sikadi mahakna khenabase khara ure masi khenabase uba matam sidai sida nga saigi kanta jina kari mahakna kari khange haba matamda saigi bot lepa matamdadi saigi makoigi jain madam amadi jain saheb mayam jingdo loinamak lepa kanda saigi bot to thadai adubu makoina makoigi macha anaba hospital da layeng bagi puba matamdadi makoi queue lepte edana mahakna khalle aduna akoina ngasaigi kanta gi wari matek sima akoina discussion toba matamda kari notice toba fange heba matamda bo thadaba matamdadi ngasaigi lairiba each and every people khudimak saigi achobadagi na hauraga macha bauda leiba adugumbagi mioi jingse loinamak chamanana same queue de lepa kana mayam loinamak bot thadaba uiko adudagidi amok saigi bot thadaba du nataba saigi hospital da lakpa matamdadi saigi leiriba makoigi achogo sang kangbu mayam jingsidi hospital da layeng machangba matamdadi makoidi queue lepteba only lairaba mioi khaktana queue lepeba aduna ngasai sigi khenaba ani simadi akoi hoji kanta gi story jema story mahaki story matek sima paba matamda koina khangbadu ngamgrai ko aduna hoji makha tarakpada koina discussion torakadori je koigi democratic form of government oriba India sidai sida yamna maru oiba key features ama oiriba mahaki yamna maru oiba key elements key features of democratic form of government oiriba equality haibase fully exist tobra tawdabra tawragana kadai fawba tawrino tawdrisina kari kari ta tawdrino haibana chingma mayamdoni hoji akoina makha tarakpa matamda discussion tarokadoise now let's start our explanation here is your first topic equal right to vote hoji akoina kanta gi story mathek ama paba matamda mi khudimakna saigi kanta mi etai mayamduma saigi kanta hairiba aduguma domestic worker oiriba siguma nupisina bot thadaba matamda mahakna line amada lepaga bot thadai ko aduga saigi mahakna lepiba line sidai sida akoina mamangi queue do angasa mamangda lepkiba adugi queue do yengma matamda line du da yawriba mayam jingse mahaki thabak pibiriba Ashok Jain adudagidi Sote Lal kaina hariba mahaki neighbor saigi makhoidagi kanta devi hoi saigi domestic worker oiriba siguma makhoidagi hena thak wangna paisa pairaba adugum mioi kaya marum amasu makhoiga same line da same queue sida ida lepa kanda vote loinamak thadaminayeba so in a democratic country like India all adults irrespective of what religions they belong to how much educations they have had and what caste they are or whether they are rich or poor are allowed to vote aduna democratic country ama oiriba akoigi India that means democratic form of government leiba adugumba country akoigi India sidadi adult khudimak adult haibadi 18 years suraba mioi dagina abapta leiba adugumba mioi jingdubuni adult haidan hairise ko aduna India da leiba adult khudimak saigi makoina leiriba irrespective of what religions they belong to makoina leiriba adugumba any religion du daiduda adudagidi makoina lai laisu kyam haiba kyam tamba tamdaba adudagidi makoina leiriba makoigi caste adudagidi yamna lairaba adudagidi inakhunba siguma mayam jing sidai sida yengdabida adult pu oiragadi saigi bot thadaba yaba sigumba makalgi system je laiba that means democratic form of government like India dati ay muka halake democratic form of government like India sidaidi ngasaigi adult khodimak 18 years tagi 18 years suraba amadi adugi abapta laiba miyoi adults khodimak any religion oiba yai adudagidi education lari yamna haiba mi oigera haitaba mi oigera adudagidi any caste adudagidi rich or poor irrespective of what religions they belong to, how much educations they have had, what caste they are, or whether they are rich or poor, are allowed to vote if they are adults. sini ngasai democratic form of democratic country like India da laiba adugumba system aduna masigi system jibu kari kauge haiba matamda universal adult franchise haidana kawi ko. I hope you all understood what is universal adult franchise. Students, I hope you all understood what is universal adult franchise, because we have already come across the term universal adult franchise in your previous class, that is class 6. Nakoigi mamangi class 6 ta universal adult franchise habse khoi tamkhre ko aduni adugi ngasai system dubuni universal adult franchise hadan haise aduna universal adult franchise in hairisi karino haiba matamda adults pu any adult jingsidi any religion oiba yai any education oiba yai any caste oiba yai lairaba ina khunba any ground dagi lakpa adugumba different kinds of people mayam jingdubu adults pu oiragadi they cast their vote, they are allowed to vote. These systems are called universal adult franchise and is an essential aspect of all democracies. Democracy study yamna important oiba adugumba aspect amani ko universal adult franchise haise, and the idea of universal adult franchise is based on the idea of equality, because it states that every adult in a country, irrespective of their wealth and the communities she or he belongs to, has one vote. Aduna universal adult franchise ki matung ina particular country sida lairiba every adult kudimak irrespective of their wealth, education, caste, rich or poor, every adults they are allowed to cast their vote and they should vote at least one. That means lairiba miyoi kudimak one vote. Vote amamam loinamak makoy thadaba yai haibaduni ko ngasai universal adult franchise ina hairis. And Kanta is excited to vote and happy that she is equal to all of the others because each of them has one vote. Aduna saigi lairiba ina khunba adudagidi different kinds of religions, different kinds of castes, adudagidi illiterate, adudagidi educated person lairiba miyoi khudimak jingse adults pu oiragadi vote thadabagi ayabado fangmanina ngasaigi Kanta Devi hairiba aduguma domestic workers issue aduguma highest rank ta highest class ta leiba miyoi mayam jingduga chap manaba queue da lepaga vote thadaba fangba haibase sidai sida mahak se yamna excited oirubaneba adudani ngasai mahakna khangibado kamaina khangige haiba matamda lairiba miyoi mayam jingsiga mahaki thabak pibiriba employer ngasai Jain Saheb Ashok Jain hariba ngasai miyoi jiga same queue da lepaga ngasai vote thadaba fangba sidani mahakna Kiamuk yamna faba adugumba government gi khongthang oirabano haidana mahakna ngasai khangibado aduni sigi mate sidai sida hairisi aduna ngasai gi universal adult franchise hariba masigi system se leibagi neba ngasai gi vote thadaba matamda chamanana lairiba different kinds of people, different kinds of religions, different kinds of caste, rich or poor, educated and uneducated makal makha kaya marumgi lairiba adugumba miyoi mayam jingsina same line de lepa kanda ngasai gi vote thadaba pangbase universal adult franchise ki mating na ni haibani sidai sida hairis ko. I hope you all understood up to this. Then next, but equality really means aduna ngasai gi morning da mahak na vote thadabada mana khangre ngasai gi government gi lairiba masigumba universal adult franchise yamna afaba khongthang amani haidana first morning da mahak na khangre ko aduga ngasai gi mahak ki numit se mai ngasai gi vote thadaruba gi numit sina sumakha sum chatharakpa matamda equality haibasigi ta sengba meaning se karino haibase mahak ta less certain oire uncertain oire equality haibase India da exist tawbra tawdabra haibase mongna chamamnaba ama pogleba aduna what is it that makes Kantas unsure mahakna morning dadi equality se leibagi mangonda masada adugumba feelings ama faujarambase mai ngasai gi numit sina de sina loisalakpa matamdadi mangonda equality se leitabagi mami ama mangonda tari se kari dagi no haiba matamda saigi mahaki life to da khoi amuktang recall tawraga yengsi ko aduna ngasai Kanta je mahakna leiriba jaga se Islam area dani ko aduga amuk mahaki yumsigi akoibada drain kaya marum mama lei aduga drain mayam jingjichu open drain loina ma oiba ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯇꯠꯇꯅ ꯅꯥꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯆꯥꯛ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯍꯜꯂꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯦ ꯅꯥꯔꯛꯑꯦ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯦ ꯅꯥꯔꯒꯁꯨ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯦ ꯍꯣꯁꯄꯤꯇꯥꯜꯗ ꯄꯨꯅꯅꯕ ꯃꯥ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯁꯨꯇꯤ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯃꯍꯥꯛ ꯐꯪꯈꯤꯗꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯁꯨꯇꯤ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯐꯪꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯑꯦꯝꯄ꯭ꯂꯣꯌꯔꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯆꯥꯅꯨꯄꯤ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯕ ꯄꯨꯅꯅꯕ ꯗꯣꯛꯇꯔꯗ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯕ ꯆꯠꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇ ꯃꯍꯥꯛ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯄꯨꯕ ꯆꯠꯄ ꯃꯊꯧ ꯇꯥꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯥ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯊꯕꯛꯁꯦ ꯃꯥ ꯇꯣꯛꯊꯣꯛꯑꯒ ꯃꯆꯥ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯕ ꯄꯨꯕ ꯆꯠꯄꯁꯦ ꯃꯥ ꯉꯝꯃꯝꯗꯦꯕ and her job mahaki thabak se kaino domestic health ni aduna mahak se kedauba yam toina waba aduga amok and finally she ends her day by again standing in a long line saigi mahaki thabak se domestic health oibanina imungi kumnong mayam tawbada mahak se totally tires her out mahak se totally wagre adubu mahak waruraba matungda machanupi je layengda yade yadana hospital da mu purga chatpa matamda su khudakta layengba muk phangde long line da mu leppa mathau tai and saigi line sida lepiba adugumba miyoi mayam jingsidi anamana lairaba ngaktani ngasaigi mamangda bothadaba matamdadi paisa paiba yamna well off oiba adugumba miyoi mayam jingduga maga ngasaigi pulap punba same line amada lepado saigi hospital sidadi adugi line do oidre hospital sida lepiba line sidi lairaba miyoi ngatana lepa line aduna sigumbagi mayam jingse mahakna thengnaruba matamda equality haibase democratic form of government oiriba ngasaigi india sida equality haibase really exist tawbra tawdabra haibase mahakta chamamnaba ma thogle aduna sigi matek sida akoina kari khangba ngamge haiba matamda ekoigi india da leiriba democracy sina equality haibase democratic form of government gidi key elements ni aduna democratic form of government di equality haibasina key elements ama oina leibanina ngasaigi vote thadaba matamda vote thadarakpa matamdadi ngasaigi universal elder franchise haribu masigi system se leibanina vote thadarakpa matamdadi equality haibase exist tawi ko adubu real life ta yengoba matamdadi reality real akoigi leiriba akoiba real life reality sida yenguba matamdadi equality haibase exist tawdaba dauna tawi haibaduni sida harise ko aduna akoi makha tarakpa matamda akoina discussion tawrakadori equality haibase kadai degi kadai fauba leirino leitrino haibana chingba aduguma mayamduni akoina makha tarakpada discussion tawkadoise so I hope you all understood up to this now let's come to your next page. All of you look here, other kinds of equality. Kanta is one of many people who live in a democratic India and who have the right to vote but whose daily living and working conditions are far from equal. Aduna sige matek sida akoina kai khangma ngamge ba matamda Kanta hairiba ngasaigi duguma domestic worker wariba miyoi se makoi je karamba miyoi no aiba matamda ngasaigi democratic India sida leiba miyoi ni ko aduda karamba miyoi oidono aiba matamda vote thadaba matamdadi mayam loinamak equality oiba aduga ngasaigi mahoi ke daily life makoi gi daily living amadi makoi gi working conditions sidi kedauri are far from equal gi amakha da leigiba aduguma makhalgi miyoi ne that means saigi kanta hariba sigi nupi je mahak se karamba miyoi no haiba matamda democratic form of government oiriba India sida leiba miyoi ni aduda ngasaigi vote thadaba matamdadi same right fangba aduga ngasaigi daily living amadi working condition dadi same right fangdaba far from equal that means inequality yam fazana face tawba aduguma miyoi amane ba mas and then apart from being poor sida makhala kaduise lairabasi khaktangda natana people in India experience inequality in different ways saigi kanta sina mahangna hospital da lakpa matamda inequality ama mahangna ngasaigi thengnari do ngasaigi hospital da khaktang nate mahaki daily living amadi working condition sisu migi imungda kaidoba domestic worker oina mahangna work tawbanina mahak se lairaba miyoi amani aduna ngasaigi mahaki machanupi layeng ba chatnaba fawbada ngasai mahak de duma off loba mahak ngamdeba maramdi paisa punanaba honabada aduna takpadi kaino ngasaigi mahaki working condition da amadi magi ngasaigi lairiba magi ngasaigi way of earning sidaisida mahak inequality face tawba mu hore aduga saigi mahakna leiriba area aduma islam oibanina kitang well off oiba area gadi makoina leiriba area dudi totally inequality amuk oire aduga amuk hospital da lakpa matamda machanupi do puraga mahakna laagasu khudakta layengba mu phangde karigidamakta lairabana aduna ngasai inequality haibase lairabada poor da exist tawba haibase makoi mamangda mu khangre haibadi ngasai kantagi wari story je akoina discussion tawba matamda lairaba amadi inakhunbagi marak sidaisida inequality sima exist tawwe haibase ma akoi khangma ngamgre ko hoji makha tabada lakadusi lairaba ji khaktangda nattana India da leiriba miyoi khudimakna lairabasi dagi nattaba atopa makhal kaya dasu inequality haibase face tawi haibadune usida haise. That means apart from being poor, people in India experience inequality in different ways. Aduni hujik akoina lakadusi ko haibadi lairabasi khaktangda nattana atai atopa karamba way dasu inequality se exist tawge haibadune sida akoina discussion tawdusi. Now look here, we have two studies or we have to discuss two stories, and each of these is based on real incidents. Koina makhada hojik discussion tarokadoriba story ani je real incident da based tawkiba adugumba story ni ko haibadi akoigi India sidaisida exist tawba inequalities makhal makha kaya marungi inequalities mayamjing sibu reflect tawba adugumba miyoi jingi life makoigi real incidents da based tawba story ani ne boji akoina sidaisida discussion tawduisi. And now look here, one of the most common forms of inequality in India is the caste system. India da inequality oibagi yamna common oiba form se karino haiba matamda caste system. Asai mamangda poor da sai mamangda rich and poor jigi marakta inequality leiba haibado ma koi khangre ko hoji makha tabada lakadosi kaino haiba matamda yamna common oiba aduguma forms of inequality in India se caste systems ni ko. And look here, if you live in rural India, your caste identity is something that you probably learn or experience very young. Karigumba koina rural India da lairamba thoklabadi, that means rural India da koina lairamba taragadi caste identity haibase aikoina yamna piingai gi matamdagi akoina caste haibase karino caste gi maramda inequality haibase kamaina tawge haibase koina yamna piingai matamdagi khangba adum ngamgani haiba rural India da. And if you live in urban India, some of you might think that people no longer believe in caste. Aduga aikoina mok urban India da lairamba taragadi caste haibase exist tawdabagi mami aikoina dum uba dum phanganeba. Adubu, but just look at this matrimonial shown from a learning English newspaper, you will see how important the issues of caste continues to be in the minds of highly educated urban Indians. Aduna sigi matik sida harise rural India da aikoina lairamba thoklagadi caste identity haibase aikoina yamna piingai matamdagi dum khangba ngamongani haibani aduga amuk aikoina urban India da lairamagadi caste haibase deisida caste system haibase masisibu exist tawribra caste system haibase muthat khibagi mami ama akoina yam line uba phangani haibani ko urban India sidaisida lairamagadi adubu sigi matek sidaisida yauriba matrimonial column se masi yengba matamdadi asaigi urban da lairiba highly educated lai oiraba aduguma miyoi mayamjing sigi maraktasu hujiki akoina hairiba urban dadi caste system haibase pura muthat kribagi mami am uba phangani haidana haijaragasu sigi matrimonial column je paba matamdadi urban da lairiba yamna educated oiraba aduguma miyoi mayamjing sigi maraktasu caste system haibase still exist tawri haibado koin uba phangani haibani sida hairisi. Aduna sigi matrimonial column sida hairisi kaino caste no bars haidana sida ama hairi ko aduga scheduled caste or scheduled tribe excuse haidana hairiba aduna sida mokoina harise kaino scheduled caste natraga scheduled tribe se excuse tawgani haibani sida haise aduna takpadi scheduled caste and scheduled tribe se still exist tawri haibani educated people mayamgi marak sidasu aduna still scheduled caste and scheduled tribe haidana sigumba ngasai gi caste se exist tawbanina makoina ngasai gi matrimonial column sida hapa matamda scheduled caste amadi scheduled tribe se makoina excuse tawre haidana makoina singdo ineba sigi ihan hanma column sida urisi. And then next mathangida khoni yengpa matamdana amuk Tamil Brahman haidana amu haire aduna sida makoina palise kaino Brahman haidana amuk palle aduna takpadi kaidore urban da leiba educated mayam jingchigi maraktasu caste system haibase still exist tawi haibaduni sida koin uba fangisi ko aduna takpadi kaidore rural oigera India rural Indian oigera adudagidi urban India oigera adudagidi illiterate people oigera adudagidi highly educated people oigera India da leiriba Indian mayam jingsida still caste system haibase still exist tawraga leiri haibaduni sigi matek sida koin uba fangisi ko aduna ngasai caste system caste sigi maramda inequality lakpa aduguma makalgi wari ama koi hojik discussion tawrasi ko sida all of you listen carefully. Now let us read a story about the experience of a Dalit child attending school. Aduna hoji akoina sida akoina discussion tawdoriba wari ji kaino haiba matamda Dalit child amana school da attend tawbagi mahaki experience to ni ko akoina sida discussion tawdise aduga Dalit ariba terms di akoi we have already come across in your class 6. That is, Dalit is a term that the so-called lower caste used to address themselves. Dalit abadi kaino haiba matamda lower caste kangbu mayam jingshibu takpada sijanaba adunguba term neba Dalit aidan haris. And Dalit means broken. And by using this word, lower castes are pointing to how they were and continue to be seriously discriminated against. Aduna Dalit abadi kaino lower caste mayam jingsibu takpada sijanaba adugumba term ni Dalit hairiba sigi term se ko aduga Dalit aiba masigi totally meaning se di kaino broken haibaneba. Aduna saigi Dalit ariba term se koina kari decision nage haiba matamda mainly leiriba lower caste mayam jingsibu discriminate tawbada yam toina sijanaba aduguma makhagi term ni ko Dalit aidan haris. Now let's start our first story. Our first story is about Om Prakash Valmiki. Koin ana study tawduriba wari se Om Prakash Valmiki hariba miyoi sigi maramdani ko. And Om Prakash Valmiki mahang na hingi 1952 to 2030. And who is Om Prakash Valmiki? Om Prakash Valmiki is a famous Dalit writer. Yamna maming chatpa adugumba Dalit writer amani Om Prakash Valmiki aidan haise aduna mahangna ijaba masagi wari autobiography Juthan hariba sidai sida mahangna kari iramge haiba matamda sigi continue tawdringi mamangda ayamuka remind tawge sije na koi khangjanba fai ko Juthan haibasi kanana ige haidana hangbasu yai aduga amuk Om Prakash Valmiki na iramba mahaki autobiography do maming kari kauge haidana hangasu yai ko aduna sigi matek sina koi khangjanba fai. This is one of the important points. Now look here, Om Prakash Valmiki na izaramba masagi autobiography Juthan hariba sidai sida mahangna kari iramge habda mayam yengsi. I had to sit away from the others in the class and that too on the floor. Class sidai sida mahangna class attend tawba matam sidai sida mayam punna phamada mahak yaude mayamdagi mahak tokhaina yamna naitom tana mahak phamba mathok tarami adusu desk amadi bench aduda mahak phamgadaba nate mahak floor dani phamgadawise ko. And the mat ran out before reaching the spot I sat on. Matamduda makoina desk bench thadadana ngasai ground da loina mak phamgadoini aduda ground da phamma matamda mat ngasai fak tharaga fak mathak sida loina mak phamgadoini adubu mahakti mayam marakta phamma yadabanina fak tu da bawda phamdabi da mahak floor doina phamba tarameba mahakse. And sometimes I would have to sit away behind everybody right near the door. Sometimes they would beat me without any reasons. Aduna sida mahak haije kaino kariguma matamda mahakse phamiba mayam jingdugi maning doina mahakse famali ngasai thong mayagumba aduga amu kariguma matamda mayam jingsina maram ilei leitana mahakse yam tattana phubiba sigumbagi problem se yam toina thoi haba mangonda ko. And when he was class 4 mahangna class 4 kari matamda ngasai mahangna tamme school sigi headmaster sina mangonda kari hairamge haba matamda ngasai school gi jaga amadi playground jingsibu sumchit sitlu haidana mangonda hairameba mahangna just class 4 kari ngai matam sidai sida aduga mahangna mo irami kari iramge haba matamda saigi mahangna sit to riba playground se adugi matik chawgreba saigi class 4 kari ba angang jigi mahaki body sina handle tawba ngamdaba saigi leiriba lampak jingse sit nana sengnana bo honabada mahaki body sina handle tawba ngamdaba adugumba ground neba saigi headmaster sina mangonda sumchit sitlu haidana pirise. And saigi mahaki mamai ufunna loinamak kupsalami and thus had gone makha sathasiko. Inside my mouth aduna ngasai mamai jingche ofun loina mangaiba aduga ngasai maya dabo ofun changba ngasai mahangna playground amadi school sumchi sipa matam sidai sida, and the other children in my class were studying and I was sweeping. Class uda yauriba student mayam jingtuna larik tammaga leidoini class yauraga aduga mahangna sumchi chilale habani ko, and headmasters was sitting in his room and watching me. Sida mahangna iramise ko saigi headmaster sina mahaki room sida phamaga mahaksi yam kupna senarami ko. Kupna senabagi changse kyam kupna senage haba matamda ising thakpa faubagi chance mongonda pideba aduna ngasagi numit chuppa mahak sumchi sillaga laihali habani ko. And from the doors and windows of the school's room the eyes of the teachers and the boys saw these spectacles. Aduna ngasagi teachers amadi students mayam jingjina mahakna tawriba thabakse yengaga lairami haibani sigi matek sida hairise. And Om Prakash was made to sweep the schools and the playground for the next couple of days, and this only came to an end when his fathers, who happened to be passing by, saw his son sweeping. Aduna ngasai Om Prakash sina sumchit silise numinini humni se mahak sumchit sile ba yam toina. Aduga ngasai gi mahakna sumchit silupase karam kanda toke haba matamda mahaki mapasina school duma fauraga lakpa matamda machanapa sina sumchit sitlaga lairamase uba matamda ngasai mahaki sumchit sitlan masi toki habani ko. Kamaina tohangi gi haba matamda he confronted the teachers, and then walking away from the schools holding Om Prakash's hand he said loudly for all of them to hear, "You are a teacher, so I am leaving now, but remember this much, master. He will study right here in this school, and not just him, but there will be more coming after him." Nang ngasai mapasina machasina sumchi sitpase uraba matungda school changaga machagi khodang se pairaga mayumda chingaga chatlammi. Aduga chatpa matamda mapasina kari hairamge haba matamda akoi budi chatle adubu ningjangbiyu master aigi icha se sidai sida tamgani sigi school simakta tamgani maha kaktangda nate atopa magumba angang kaya marum amasu sigi school sida laaga tamgani haidana mahangna laurame haidana hairami ko. Aduna ngasai gi mahangna school sidai sida sumchi sitpa tokibase mapasina sumaina thengnara kanda mapasina ngasai gi headmaster sidai sida complain tawra kanda da ngasai gi mahaki sumchi sitpase toome habane. Aduna ngasai gi sigi Om Prakash Valmiki gi story se akhona discussion tawba matamda kari khangba ngamge haba matamda saigi Dalit student saigi Dalit children mayam jingse particular school lamada makoina larik tamba chatpa matam sidai sida they are ill treated, and we have already come across the study of Dr. Br Ambedkar in your previous class. Koina na koi class 6 ta Dr. Br Ambedkar gi mahaki wari koina na koi class 6 ta mahangna train mahaki ngasai train station da mahangna thengnagiba adugumba incident amagi maramda aikoina koi class 6 ta we have already discussed about him. Aduna akoina koi class 6 ta already tamgre ko Dalit ki adugumba ngasai Dr. Br Ambedkar gi mahaki story ama koina na koi class 6 ta tamgre adugi story duga hafet related oiba adugumba story ni ngasai Om Prakash Valmiki. Aduga Om Prakash Valmiki sina amuk ngasai school da thengnaba Dalit student amana school da makoina attend tawba matamda kamaina tawge kari problem thengnage haibaduni sidai sida akoina khangma ngamise ko. Aduna sumai tawdana ngasai Dalit haibase kaino makoise caste system dadi yamna lower caste amani. Aduna ngasai Dalit student mayam jingsina school da ill treated oina ngasai lairiba angang jingduga chapmanaba mityengda yengdabida makoisina handana yengise masise inequality neba. Inequality in what base? In caste system. Caste system da inequality exist tawba adugi matangdani sida akoina amuk discussion tawrise ko. And in our second story sina karida base tawge haba matamda religion da base tawba adugumba story amani ko. All of you look here. The second story is based on an incident that took place in one of India's larger cities and is common practice in most parts of the country. Indiagi achouba city amadi ngasai ge koi Indiagi part anamana yamna toina thokpa adugumba incident amani ko je koi second story sida discussion tawduise, and it is a story about Mr. and Mrs. Ansari. Je koi tamdori story se Mr. and Mrs. Ansari. ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯣꯔꯤꯗꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤ ꯀꯩꯝꯇ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯀꯥꯡꯕꯨꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯀꯥꯡꯕꯨꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯈꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯏꯟꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯑꯃꯅꯤ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯗꯤꯁꯀ꯭ꯔꯤꯞꯁꯟ ꯇꯧꯗꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯀꯔꯝꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯏꯟꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯔꯦꯟꯠ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯂꯥꯛꯅꯅꯕ that means ꯔꯦꯟꯠ ꯂꯧꯅꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯕꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯈꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯏꯟꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯇꯤ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤ ꯃꯇꯩ ꯃꯅꯥꯎꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝꯅꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯁꯤꯇꯤ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯇ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯂꯥꯛꯅꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯕꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯈꯤꯕ ꯏꯟꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯇꯨꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯨꯠꯇ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯔꯦꯟ ꯊꯤꯕ ꯉꯝꯒꯗꯕꯒꯤ ꯆꯥꯡꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯔꯦꯟ ꯊꯤꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯕ꯭ꯂꯦꯝ ꯀꯩꯝꯇ ꯊꯣꯛꯇꯕꯒꯤ ꯆꯥꯡꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯄꯩꯁꯥꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯄꯥꯏꯔꯒ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯂꯥꯛꯏꯀꯣ and they went to a property dealer for help to find a place ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯥꯛꯄ ꯃꯇꯝꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ property dealer ꯑꯃꯗ ꯖꯒꯥ ꯊꯤꯕꯤꯅꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯗꯤꯂꯔꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯈꯪꯕ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯇꯥꯛꯇꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯈꯜꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤ ꯃꯇꯩ ꯃꯅꯥꯎꯁꯤꯅꯏꯍꯥꯟ ꯍꯥꯟꯕ ꯆꯪꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯄꯥꯝꯃꯝꯃꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯂꯩꯔꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯗꯤꯁꯥꯏꯠ ꯇꯧꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯄꯨ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯇꯥꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯌꯨꯁ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯤꯔꯝꯃꯤꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯄꯨ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯂꯩꯇꯅꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯌꯨꯁ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯤꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯀꯩ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯌꯨꯁ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯀꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯠ ꯆꯥꯕ ꯀꯥꯡꯕꯨꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯌꯥꯗꯦ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯑꯅꯝꯕꯅ ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟꯁ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟꯁ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯁ ꯑꯝꯇ ꯂꯩꯇꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯌꯨꯁꯁꯦ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯊꯤꯔꯛꯀꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟ ꯑꯝꯇ ꯂꯩꯇꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯗꯤ ꯃꯤꯠ ꯆꯥꯕ that means ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯅꯈꯣꯏꯗꯤ ꯃꯤꯠ ꯆꯥꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯔꯣꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯀ꯭ꯌꯨꯁ ꯊꯤꯔꯛꯑꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤꯁ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯄꯔꯇꯤ ꯗꯤꯂꯔꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯏꯕ ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯃꯤꯠ ꯆꯥꯕ ꯃꯤꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯎꯈꯨꯝꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯇꯥꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯁꯔꯄ꯭ꯔꯥꯏꯖ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯖꯒꯥꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯅꯥꯏꯕꯔꯗꯒꯤ ꯉꯥ ꯊꯣꯡꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯝꯗꯤ ꯅꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯅꯟ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯚꯦꯖꯤꯇꯦꯔꯤꯌꯟ ꯈꯛꯀꯤ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯄꯁꯤ ꯇꯥꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤꯁ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯄꯔꯇꯤ ꯗꯤꯂꯔꯁꯦ they were surprised and the same excuse was repeated in the second and the third apartment aduna sumai tawdana makoina ngasai gi first apartment da changuba matamda piraiba aduguma excuses adumaina second apartment da su adudagi di third apartment da su changuba matamda makhal makha kaya marumgi excuse piraga makoise leitanaba adum honare habani ko sidai sidais and finally last di ngसाइगी प्रॉपर्टी डीलर सिना मखोइगी ngसाइगी ममिंग से अंसारी दगी कुमार चेंज तोक्थो हाइदना हाइरेबा अदुबु ngसाइगी अंसारीस मते मनाउ सिनादी मखोइगी ममिंग चेंज तोबा हाइबसे मखोइ पामदे अदुना मखोइ ममिंग चेंज तोदे चेंज तोदबिदा अतोप्पा लेफम मोइना मखोइ अखोइ थिजगे हाइदना मखोइ नोइना डिसाइड तोवेबा अदुगा फाइनली मखोइना मखोइगी अपार्टमेंट थिना बोहनाबदा था अमा मुक्चंगना मखोइ थिरे अदुगा काइना थंगददी ngसाइगी था अमा मुक्चंगना थिरबा मतुंगदा अंसारी ओइरगसु मखोइबु लैबा याबा अदुगुम्बा लैंडलेडी अमागी अपार्टमेंट से मखोइ थेंगनादना मखोइ लैबाबुदी फंगी को अदुबु इहान हाना हौगलकपा मतमददी मखोइगी ngसाइगी अंसारी हारिबा मखोइगी ममिंग से ताबा मतमदा लैंडलेडी कया मरुम अमना मखोइजे लहनिंगदना एक्सक्यूज कया मरुम अमा थीरगा लोइनमक तोखेबा अदुना सिगी वारी मतेक सिदा कोइना करी खंगबा ngamge हाइबा मतमदा रिलीजन धर्मदा धर्मदसु अखोइगी इनइक्वालिटी हाइबसे अदुम एग्जिस्ट तौइ हाइबदुनि अखोइना सिदैसिदा उबा फंगिसे अदुना अखोइगी डेमोक्रेटिक फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ओइरिबा इंडिया सिदा साइगी लाइरबा अदुदगिदी कास्ट अदुदगिदी रिलीजन सिदैसिदा मखल मखा कया मरुमगी इनइक्वालिटी कया मरुम अमा लैरे हाइबदु अखोइना सिदैसिदा खंबा ngami ko and makha sum chathar then come to your next page. Recognizing dignity. Hidayisida dignity hadna term ama laise kemta nate the state of being worthy of respect. That means the state of being worthy of respect. That means yam samna hairabada respect to ni dignity hadna hais. Aduna recognizing dignity. Masigi topic se uji akoy amuk discussion tawrasi ko. And you have understood by now that the caste we are born into, the religion we practice, the class background we come from, whether we are male or female, these are often the things that determines why some people are treated unequally. Koina mamangi story mayam jingdo koina discussion tawba matamda koina kari kari khangba ngamge haiba matamda saigi miyoi jingsibu unequally oina treated tawrise kari kari da yengaga unequally treated tawge haiba matamda makoigi caste makoigi religion da adudagidi makoigi class makoigi ngasai background mana ngasai laiba adugumba background gi class ta adudagidi nupa natraga nupi sigumba makhal makha kaya marum sidani ngasai miyoi jingsibu treated unequally yam unequally oina treated tawrise sigumba mayam jingsidani base tawraga mi jingsibu unequally treated tawrise. Now, Om Prakash Valmiki and the Ansaris are being treated unequally on the basis of difference of caste and religions. Aduna, Om Prakash Valmiki amadi Ansaris makoi sibu unequally treated tawrise karida base tawragano makoi caste amadi religion da. Aduga ngasai gi Kanta Devi duna unequally treated tawrise na karida base tawraga magi ngasai gi poor oibaduna ni mahakna amuk unequally treated tawrise. Aduna sumai tawdana aikoigi India da makal maka kayagi inequality se still practice tawri haibaduni sida hainingis. And then come to your next page. When persons are treated unequally, their dignity is violated. Aduna kanagumba miyoi amabu unequally oina manadana hek treated torokpa matamda magi dignity se violate tawrine. Dignity means the state of being worthy of respect. That means isam samna hairabada respect abaduni ko aduna ngasai makoigi respect se kanagumba miyoi amagi kanagumba miyoi amabu akoina unequally treated ek torokpa matamda magi respect magi dignity se akoina violate tawrine. And the dignity of both Om Prakash and the Ansaris were violated because of the way in which they are treated. Aduna ngasai Om Prakash Valmiki amadi Ansari se makoigi dignity se makoigi respect se akoina violate taweb. That means makoina violate taweb. Maramdi ngasai Om Prakash Valmiki amadi Ansari sida mayamna treat tawriba adugumba sai makoigi wedo aduna kari take haiba matamda makoigi dignity se violate tawre haibaduni atudaiduda tais. And by picking on him and making him swipe the schools kanano ngasai Om Prakash Valmiki dubu school duda sumsit silhanba magi ngasai caste na maram oiraga adudagi ngasai magi schoolmates amadi teachers mayam jingina magi dignity se yamna badly hurt tawi ko and made him feel as if he was less than equal to all other students in these schools. Aduna ngasai students magi ngasai schoolmates amadi teachers mayam jingchina mahaki dignity se yam badly hurt tawi aduga ngasai Om Prakash Valmiki sibu school sida lairiba angang mayam jingsiga yamna angang mayam jingsidagi yamna handhaba amoina mangonda pohalleba. And being a child, Om Prakash Valmiki could do very little about the situation that he was in. Aduna angang oibanina mahakasu thoidokna tawbadi ngamde ngasai mahaki mapaduna machaduna sumchi silambadu uba matamdudaiduda ngasai mapado yamna saurba matungda haibadi ngasai machadubu unequal treatment tawbase mapaduna thengnaraba matamda and finally he confronted the teachers. Saigi lairiba adugumba Om Prakash Valmiki se mahak ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯁꯦ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯀꯨꯜꯁꯤꯗ ꯇꯝꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯉꯥꯡ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯍꯟꯊꯅ ꯎꯕꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯁꯥꯗꯁꯨ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯍꯟꯊꯕ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯂꯣꯋꯔ ꯐꯤꯂꯤꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯐꯥꯎꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯄꯣꯛꯍꯜꯂꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯉꯥꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯀꯩꯁꯨ ꯊꯣꯏꯗꯣꯛꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯏꯜ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯇꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯏꯕꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯄꯣꯖꯤꯁꯟꯗ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯂꯦꯡꯕꯗꯤ ꯉꯝꯗꯦ ꯐꯥꯏꯅꯦꯂꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯄꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯟꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯜ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯠꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯁꯥꯎꯅꯤꯡꯃꯟꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯇꯤꯆꯔꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯀꯟꯐ꯭ꯔꯟ ꯇꯧꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯈꯛꯇꯅꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯜ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯠꯃꯦꯟꯁꯦ ꯗꯦꯠ ꯃꯤꯟꯁ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯀꯨꯜꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ 2-3 days ꯁꯨꯝꯁꯤ ꯁꯤꯠꯂꯒ ꯂꯩꯍꯜꯂꯛꯏꯕ ꯑꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯈꯜꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯜ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯃꯄꯥꯁꯤꯅ ꯇꯤꯆꯔꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯀꯟꯐ꯭ꯔꯟ ꯇꯧꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯈꯛꯇꯅꯤ ꯇꯣꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯤꯗꯣ ꯑꯦꯟ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤꯁꯤꯡꯗꯁꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯗꯤꯒꯅꯤꯇꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯕꯦꯗꯂꯤ ꯍꯥꯔꯠ ꯑꯣꯏ ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯈꯜꯒꯤ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯅ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯂꯩꯖꯔꯒꯁꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯔꯦꯟ ꯄꯤꯔꯒ ꯂꯩꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯂꯤꯖꯟꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯒ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯤꯁ ꯇꯧꯅꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯅ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛ ꯔꯤꯐ꯭ꯌꯨꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯊꯥꯗꯣꯔꯛꯏꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯦꯟ ꯑꯥꯐꯇꯔ ꯗꯦꯠ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯄꯔꯇꯤ ꯗꯤꯂꯔꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯤꯡ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯆꯦꯟꯖ ꯇꯧꯅꯅꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯤꯡ ꯆꯦꯟꯖ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯣ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯗꯤꯒꯅꯤꯇꯤ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯜꯐ ꯔꯦꯁꯄꯦꯛꯁꯦ ꯃꯥꯡꯒꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯃꯃꯤꯡ ꯆꯦꯟꯖ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯗꯦ ꯃꯃꯤꯡ ꯆꯦꯟꯖ ꯇꯧꯗꯕꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯖꯒꯥ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯤꯔꯒ ꯐꯥꯏꯅꯦꯂꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯒꯁꯨ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯐꯪꯉꯀꯥꯟꯗꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯂꯩꯈꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯃꯤꯡꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯆꯦꯟꯖ ꯇꯧꯈꯤꯗꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯂꯦꯟꯂꯦꯗꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯄꯥꯔꯠꯃꯦꯟꯗꯨꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯌꯥꯗꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯄꯔꯇꯤ ꯗꯤꯂꯔꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯤꯡꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯕు ꯑꯣꯟꯊꯣꯛꯑꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯒꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯈꯪꯕ ꯉꯝꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯥꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯗꯤꯒꯅꯤꯇꯤꯁꯦ ꯇꯣꯇꯦꯂꯤ ꯚꯥꯏꯑꯣꯂꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯋꯦꯕ I hope you all understood up to this. And then Om Prakash and the Ansaris do not deserve to be treated like this. They deserve the same respect and dignity as anyone else. Aduna ngasai Om Prakash Balmiki amadi ngasai Ansaris makoida mayamna treat tawbirise sumaina tawba haibase makoi deserve tawde. Makoisu mayamdawna same respect amadi same dignity haibase mayamda fangiba ngasai same respect amadi same dignity se makoisu fangfam thoi haibaduni sigi matek sidai haris. I hope you all understood up to this. And then come to your next topic, equality in Indian democracy. The Indian Constitution recognizes every person as equal. Indian gi Constitution na lairiba miyoi khudimak chap manana equal oina loinamak recognize tawi ko. This means that every individuals in the country, including male and female persons from all castes, religions, tribes, educational and economic backgrounds are recognized as equals. Indian Constitution na laiba miyoi khudimak chap manana recognize tawi haibani masigi meaning se karino haiba matamda aikoigi country sida lairiba people khudimak haibadi nupa oiro nupi oiro adudagidi ngasai different castes, religions, tribes, adudagidi educated and uneducated and different economic backgrounds lairiba sigumba makal makha kaya marum lairiba miyoi jingse ngasai makoigi de different castes, different religions, adudagidi different tribes, adudagidi different educational background, adudagidi different economic background, sigumba mayam jingsidagi lakpa adugumba nupa nupi khudimak chap manaba midyengda loinamak recognize tawi haibaduni sida haris. Aduna ngasai Indian Constitution na lairiba nupa amadi nupi kadai dagi lakpa different caste dagi lakpa nupa nupi different religions, tribes, educational and economic backgrounds loinamak chap manana they are recognized as equal. This is not to say that inequality ceases to exist. Aduna lairiba khudimak saigi Indian Constitution na mi khudimak chap manana equally recognized tawi haidana hairagasu this is not to say that inequality ceases to exist. it doesn't. But at least in democratic India, the principles of the equality of all persons is recognized. aduna sigi matek sida hairisi karino haiba matamda saigi Indian Constitution na mi khudimak chapmanana recognize tawi haibaduni sida hairise, and this is not say that inequality cease to exist. Indian Constitution na mi khudimak chapmanana, every person khudimak chapmanana recognize tawi haidana hairagasu inequality haibase exist tawba haibasidagi inequality se pura muthatkhiba haibadudi oide haibani. That means inequality haibase still exist tawraga lairi haibaduni sida haris. Maramdi saigi Indian Constitution na mi khudimak chapmanana recognize tawi haidana hairagasu inequality haibase pura puri muthatkhiba haibadudi oide. That means inequality se pura puri muthatpa ngamde haibaduni sida haris. Adubu, at least in democratic India, the principles of the equality of all of all persons is recognized. Adubu, democratic India dadi ngasai principle of equality of all persons is recognized. Saigi lairiba adugumba equality gi principle se ngasai miyoi khudimakta lairiba adugumba equality gi principle se masi se mayamna khangbabdi khangbi habani ko. Haibadi ngasai inequality haibase still exist tawragasu ngasai democratic India sidadi lairiba adugumba equality gi principles ngasai lairiba miyoi mayamjing sida lairiba adugumba equality of principles of the equality sibudi ekhoina recognize tawbi haibaduni sida haris. That means ngasai inequality haibase still exist tawragasu Indian Constitution na mi khudimak loinamak equal oina recognize tawragasu inequality haibase pura puri muthatkibadi ngamde. Inequality haibase still exist tawraga lay. Adubu inequality se exist tawraga laijaragasu democratic India dadi sai the principle of equality of all person masibudi recognize tawbi haibaduni sigi matek sida harisi. And while earlier no law existed to protect people from discrimination and ill treatment, now there are several that work to see that people are treated with dignity and as equals. Aduna mama ngai dadi kari tawramge haiba matamda saigi lairiba miyoi jingsibu saigi discrimination adudagi ill treatment sigumba mayam jingsidagi protect tawnanaba adugumbagi law amata lairamdeba mama ngai dadi. Adubu hojiki matamdadi lairiba adugumba lairiba different types of people, different people who were coming from different backgrounds, that means different types of peoples mayam jingsibu dignity amadi equal oina treated tawnanaba adugumba makalgi different kinds of work kaya marum ama government na paikhale haibaduni sida haris. Aduna thainagi matamdadi discrimination amadi ill treatment sidagi protect tawnanaba adugumba law kaya marum ama lairamde. Aduba hojiki matamdadi lairiba different types of peoples mayam jingsibu treated with dignity amadi equal oina treat tawnanaba adugumba makal makha kaya marumgi programs amadi policies kaya marum ama paikhalai haibaduni sigi matek sida harisi. I hope you all understood up to this. Then come to your next paragraph. Now, these recognitions of equality includes some of the following provisions in the constitutions. Aduna saigi recognitions of equalities mi mayam jingsibu amaga chapmanaba equal oina yengaknaba. Aduna ngasai recognitions of equality sida kari yauge heba matamda ekoi constitution da makhada yarokadoriba provisions kaya marum sima yaurame habaduni ko. Adun yan hanbada kari yauge heba matamda every person is equal before the law. Lairiba miyoi khudimak law gi mamangdadi chapmanagani habaduni sida haris. What this means is that Kadino mahang harise every person from the presidents of the country to kanta a domestic worker has to obey the same law. That means country amagi president dagi hauraga ngasai domestic worker oiriba kanta yamna akhoi handharaba adugumba miyojing saigi president dagi hauraga yamna handharaba jati da leiba adugumba miyoi mayamjing se chapmanana law ama khaktangda mayamse chap manana illaga chatkadabani haibaduni ko. That means ngasagi lairaba ina khunba larik haiba haitaba lairiba adugumba different types of people, different kinds of people mayam jingse law gi mamang dadi chap manai haibani. Aduna takpadi same law chap manaba law ama khaktangda mayam pumnamak follow tawgadabani haibaduni ihan hanbagi provision sidesida harisi. And second provision dana kari haige, no persons can be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, race, caste, place of birth, or whether they are female or male. Aduna mi khudingmak saigi makoigi religion da base tawraga, makoigi race da, caste da, place of birth da, or whether they are male or female sidaisida base tawrakanda kanagumba mi amatada handhana yengba yade haibaduni sidaisida harisi. And the third provision na kari haige, every person has access to all public places including playgrounds, hotels, shops and markets. Aduna lairiba praja khudimak public places koigi lairiba playgrounds, hotels, shops and markets sigumba public places mayam jingse lairiba praja khudimangna loinamak sijanaba yai haibaduni sida harisi. And all persons can use publicly available wells, roads and voting guards. Aduna lairiba praja khudimak mayamgidamakta available oiriba, publicly available oiriba ngasai wells, roads and voting guards sigumba kayamarum siju praja khudimakna loinamak access tawba yai haibaduni third provision harise. And last and fourth provision dana kari haige, untouchability has been abolished. Sokna samnaba yadaba haibase totally muthatkadabani haidana fourth provision sida haramiko. Aduna sigi provision mari se ngasai government na koigi Indian constitution sida government na hapsalae ko. Aduna masi hapsalae je karida base tawrino haiba matamda equality da base tawrakanda masigi provision mari se Indian constitution na hapsalae haibani. Aduna masigi law jingse lakpadagidi saigi mamangai da lairamba adugumba discrimination, ill treatment tawbada akoina thingnanaba adugumba law amata lairamdaba mayam jingdo hojiki matamdadi sigumba equality da base tawba provisions kaya marum mama constitution da hapsalae haibaduni sigi matek sida hainingis. And the two ways in which the government has tried to implement the equality that is guaranteed in the constitutions is first through laws and second through government programs or schemes to help disadvantaged groups. Aduna ngasai government na equality je implement tawnanaba honarakpada government na ihan hanbada makoina constitution da saigi akoigi democratic form of government oiriba akoigi India gi sidaisida laiba adugumba constitution sidaisida akoigi government sina equality habase implement tawnanaba honarakpada makoina ihan hanbada karida base tawraga law gi matengna equality je mayamda implement tawnanaba honarami. Aduga ani subadana government programs natraga saigi schemes sigumba mayam jingsina akoigi disadvantages mayamdagi handaraba adugumba communities mayam jingsibu mateng pangnanaba honabada mayam jingsigi marakta equality je poraknaba honabada akoigi government na ihan hanbadana law apply tawraga sijanaba amadi ani subadana government programs natraga schemes kaya marup mama implement tawraga mayam jingsigi marakta equality laknanaba haidana honarame. And there are several laws in India that protect every person's right to be treated equally. Aduna India da law kaya marum mama laigreba. Aduna aduguma makhal makhagi law, different types of law, that means several laws kaya marum mama aikoigi India da pass tawraga laigre. Aduna saigi lairiba persons, different persons, each and every persons khudimak jingse equally treated tawgadabani haidana mayam jingsibu equally oina protect tawnanaba adugumba makhal makha kaya marumgi law kaya marum ama koigi government na pass tawraga laigre. And in addition to law sagi law sigi mathakta amuk the government has also set up several schemes to improve the lives of communities and individuals who have been treated unequally for several centuries. These schemes are to ensure greater opportunities for people who have not had this in the past. Aduna saigi leiriba aikoigi government sina equality haibase mayam jing sidai sida phangnanaba honabada makhal makha kayagi law kaya marum ama leigre aduga ngasai law sigi mathakta amuk makhal makha kayagi scheme adudagi di government programs adudagi di schemes kaya marum ama su koigi government sina mayam jingse equality oina equally treated taunanaba honarakpada ngasai disadvantages laidaba adugumba communities mayam jingsibu equally treated taunanaba honarakpada law sigi mathakta makhal makha kaya marumgi schemes kaya marum amasu amuk paikhatlameba aduna ngasai government sina lokhaliba adugumba makhal makha kaya marumgi schemes mayam jingsina kari tauge haba matamda to improve the lives of communities and individuals who have been treated unequally for several centuries. Sahi kaya dagi unequally oina treat tawraga laaba adugumba saigi communities sing adudagi di adugumba individuals kaya marumgi makoigi life sibu improve tawnanaba honarakpada mateng pangnanaba government jingsina law jingjigi mathakte scheme kaya marum amazu amuk paikhatlami haibani ko sida harise aduga adugumba schemes leiriba different types of schemes mayam jingsina masaigi leiriba adugumba disadvantages groups mayam jingchina makoina phangakhidraba adugumba opportunities kaya marum ama phangnanabagi damaktani masigumba schemes kaya marum ama paikhalaise aduga sigumba schemes kaya marum ama lakpadagidi aikoigi leiriba disadvantages groups mayam jingchina opportunities kaya marum ama phangamme haibaduni sigi matek sida haisi aduna saigi leiriba schemes mayam jingsidagi aikoina example ama oin hairabada midday meal schemes. One of the steps taken by the government includes the midday meal scheme. Aduna ngasai government na packet based schemes ti kaya marum ama leigre adugi mayam jingdugi manungda aikoina yamna important oiba adugum scheme ama hairabada midday meal scheme. Midday meal scheme je masi yamna important oiba adugum scheme ama ni ko. And this refers to the program introduced in all government elementary schools to provide children with cooked lunch. Aduna midday meal scheme haise karam makhalgi scheme no haiba matamda saigi government elementary schools leiriba India da leiriba adugumba government elementary schools jingsidai sida cooked lunch angang mayam jingsida cooked lunch oina provide taunanabagi damakta paikhatpa adugumba makhalgi scheme ni masigi midday meal scheme maidana haise hojiki hairiba midday meal scheme se karamba state ta ihan hana introduce tawkigige haiba matamda Tamil Nadu hairiba state sidai sida ihan hana introduce tawki ko and 2001 da the Supreme Court asks all the state government to begin these programs in their schools within 6 months. Aduna Tamil Nadu da ihan hana 2001 sida hojiki hairiba scheme je ihan hana introduce tawgi aduga Supreme Court na hojiki hairiba scheme je leiriba government state leiriba each and every state government mayam jingsida hojiki hairiba scheme je tha tarukki manungda haunanaba loinamak haugadabani haidana Supreme Court na amuk pass tawkiba aduna ihan hanbadi 2001 da Tamil Nadu da ihan hanna introduce tawki hojiki midday meal scheme haribase aduga Tamil Nadu da 2001 da ihan hanna introduce tawkraba matungdagidi Supreme Court na state government jingsidai sida tha tarukki manungda hojiki hariba scheme mayam jingse all government elementary school kudimakta loinamak haugadabani haidana Supreme Court na dumain order thoki ko. And this program has had many positive effects. Sikariba program se magi kanaba effect kaya marum ama leiki ko. Aduna magi positive effects mayam jingsi manungda kai yauge haba matamda. This includes the fact that more poor children have begun enrolling and regularly attending schools. Yan hanba positive effect ta sagi laidaba children mayam jing laidaba children kaya marum ama ngasagi school da ming chanbagi chang hengalakpa aduga amuk chang naina school lakpagi chang so hengalakpa sisina mahaki number 1 positive effect ni and teachers reported that Earlier, children would often go home for lunch and then not return to schools. But now, with the midday meal being provided in school, their attendance has improved. Aduga ngasaygi mamangaydi angangjingchina mayumda chak chaba hankraga amuk schoolda halaktabagi problem kaya marum mama lerami adubu midday meal scheme je saigi school jingsida hek provide tawrakpadagidi angang mayam jingse mayumda handre schoolda du makoigi cook lunch oina fangabanina mayumda handre aduna makoigi attendance school gi makoigi attendance record se improve oirai yaidana teachers kaya marum mama nasu amuk report tawrami ko. And dear mothers saigi adugumba lairaba angang jingsigi mama jingse makhoi jingsina atopa thabak ama makoina sururagasu ngasai macha jingsina school dagi mayumda amuk chaba lakpagi problem ama leibanina ngasai makhoi jingse thabak to thado amaga macha jingse chak pijaba lakpagi problem ama yam toina thoami ko. Adubu hojiki midday meal scheme se lakpadagi di makhoi gi macha jingsina mayumda laaga chak chaba ngasai school dagi mayumda laaga ngasai chak chabagi masigi problem se midday meal scheme je lakpadagi di masigi problem se thoktre aduna ngasai mama jingchichu makoina thabak suriba ngasai thabak tudaiduda fully concentrate tawraga subagi chang se yamna hengalai habaduni sidai daris aduna saigi midday meal gi magi positive effect kharani sidai da haisi. And this program has also helped reduce caste prejudices because children of all castes in the school eat this meal together and in quite a few places. Aduna hujiki lairiba positive effect khara jingdugi mathakta amuk hujiki midday meal schemes midday meal gi programs hina amuk kari hanthange haba matamda caste prejudice saigi caste different caste mayam jingsi gi marakta khaido amba awang anem haidana khaido amba adugi caste prejudice mayam jingsu caste ki maramda caste ki different caste mayam jingsi gi marakta lairamba adugumba saigi magi lairiba awang anem haidana ngasai khaido amba adugumba prejudices mayam jingsisu amuk handahalle kamaina handahange haba matamda saigi school sidai sida tammiba angang mayam jingdu chak pulap chaminabagi chance ama fange adusu same school same places sidai sida different caste dagi lakpa adugumba angang mayam jingse pulap pullaga chak chaminabagi chance ama fangbanina caste prejudices si reduce tawbada yam chawna mateng pangi ko. And Dalit women have been employed to cook the meal aduga amuk ngasai Dalit tagi lakpa adugumba women kaya marum mamana ngasai meal jingse thongnanaba makhoi jingse amuk employed tawrameba aduna ngasai Dalit women thabuk fangdaba kaya marum dusu thabuk fange aduga amuk ngasai Dalit jingsiga sokna samnaba yade haidana leiramma mayam jingdusu Dalit jingduna thongba adugumba chak mayam jingdo loinamak pijaramadina. That means ngasai high caste gi lakpa angang mayam jingdusu Dalit women mayam jingsina thongba adugumba chak mayam jingsisu makoisu loinamak charabanina caste prejudices ki changse yamna reduce tawbagi that means yamna reduce tawi haibaduni sidai sida haris. And the midday meal program also helps reduce the hunger of the poor students who often come to schools and cannot concentrate because their stomachs are empty. Aduga amuk midday meal program sina kari handahange haba matamda saigi lairaba angang mayam jing sina makoina mabuk lama aga study da concentrate tawba ngamdabado adusu ngasai midday meal oina makoina cook lunch oina pijarabanina saigi makoigi mabuk lambagi changjing do handare aduga laik ta concentrate tawbasu ngami haibaduni sidai sida haris aduna sidai sida saigi midday meal schemes midday meal program asigi positive effect kaya marum mama koi discussion tokre. And then come to your next paragraph. While government programs played an important role in increasing equality of opportunities, there is much that still needs to be done. Aduna government sina ngasai lairiba adugumba equality habase lairiba mayam jingi marakta equality habase masisi lainanaba government sina yam kanna honajaragasu inequality habase still exist tawraga adum layeba aduna ngasai government sina programs amadi laws kaya marum ama implement tawdana ngasai equality sigi mayam sigi lairiba different kinds of peoples mayam sigi marakta equality habasi lainanaba government na laws adudagidi program schemes kaya marum ama implement tawdana government na yam kanna hona jaragasu hojik fauba aikoina tawgadaba kaya marum ama lairi habani ko adu kai kai makada yengsi. While the midday meal programs has helped increase the enrollment and attendance of poor children in school, there continues to be big difference in our country between schools that the rich attend and those that are poor attend. Aduna ngasai government sina lairiba government elementary schools mayam jing sidai sida angang mayam jing sidai sida ngasai midday meal program habsi masi implement tawre. Aduna ngasai midday meal program sina implement tawraba matungda saigi adugumba angang mayam jingsina makoigi enrollment mingchan bagi chang adudagidi makoigi attendance saigi lairaba angang jingsina school sidai sida makoigi enrollment attendance kaya marum ama improve tawjaragasu saigi lairaba angang mayam jingsina tamiba school jiga ina khunba macha jingsina tamiba school jingsiga di totally different oiri habani sidai sida haris. And even today there are several schools in the country in which Dalit children like Om Prakash Valmiki are discriminated against and treated unequally. Aduna hojiki matam dabauda koigi India gi makal makha kaya marum lairiba koigi schools different types of schools mayam jing sidai sida Dalit children saigi Om Prakash Valmiki makoi gumba ngasai Dalit children mayam jing sibu discriminated against amadi unequally oina treated tawba adugama makhalgi school kaya marum amasu lairi habani sidai sida haris. And these children are forced into unequal situations in which their dignity aduna ngasai adugama angang mayam jing sidai sida kari laige haba matamda unequal situations mayam dagi manadaba adugumba condition ama angang mayam jing sida still adum face tawraga lairiba maramdi makoigi dignity angang mayam jing sida laiba adugumba ngasai makoigi dignity mayam jingse akoina respect tawdaba aduna ngasai lairiba adugumba Dalit children mayam jing sidai sida atopa higher caste gi lakpa angang mayam jingsina unequally oina treated tawbasina kaidoge eba matamda these children are forced into unequal situation aduna ngasai unequally oina treated tawbasina adugumba angang jing sidai sida unequal oiba situations amamam loinamak force taweba maramdi ngasai makoigi dignity se respect tawdabase sisina angang jing sidai sida unequal situations amamam loinamak face tawhale habaduni ko sida haris. And then this is because people refuse to think of them as equal even though the law requires it. Aduna ngasai lairiba adugumba Dalit children mayam jing sidai sida higher caste gi lakpa adugumba miyoi mayam jing sina unequally treated tawba still hoji bauba unequally treatment piba adudagidi makoigi dignity mayam jing sibu violate tawraga adum lei masi se karigino haiba matamda aikoigi praja mayam jing sina they refuse to think of them as equal even though the law requires it. Aduna ngasai law jingsina require law jingsina darkar taragasu lairiba praja mayam jingsina lairiba adugumba caste religions lairiba mayam jingsigi marakta mayam jingsi chap manai haidana mayam jingsina khanma ngamdabase sigisinani yam chauna ngasai lairiba unequal treatment haibase still exist tawrisi haibaduni sigi matek sidai sida haris maramdi sidai sida hainingisi government na law amadi makoina programs schemes kaya marum ama semba khaktakna satisfy oide haibaduni ko ngasai lairiba praja mayam jingse masisu bab taminaba ama changi haibaduni sigi matek sidai sida haris. Aduna makha tarakpada yengsi one of the main reasons for this is that attitude change very slowly. Aduna ngasai koi praja mayam jingse praja mayam jingsina lairiba mayam jingsi amaga equal oina khanma ngamdabadagini yam chauna inequality haibase still exist tawrisi ko aduna sai praja mayam jingsina amaga chapmana na khanma ngamdrise kari maramgi no haiba matamda attitude change very slowly sai lairiba people mayam jingsidai sida lairiba makoigi attitude se hongba matamda yam koina changeba And even though persons are aware that discrimination is against the law, they continue to treat people unequally on the basis of their caste, religions, disability, economic status, and because they are women. Aduna ngasai gi lairiba praja mayam jingsina discrimination tauba haibase law gi against the lay haibase makoina khangagasu lairiba miyoi khudimaksibu makoigi caste, religion da, disability da, economic status da amadi nupi oiba sidaisida base taurakanda lairiba miyoi mayam jingsibu unequally oina still koina treated tauri. It is only when people begin to believe that no one is inferior and that every person deserves to be treated with dignity that present attitudes can change. Aduna still hojibawa koina unequally oina treated loinamak tauri masise karamba kandata change tawgadage haiba matamda lairiba praja mayam jingsina lairiba makal makha kayagi lairiba religions, caste, disabilities, economic status, women siguma mayam jingsibu amadagi amana handai haidana khandraba. That means lairiba people mayam jingsibu treated with dignity amaga loinana loinamak treat tawgadabani mayam jingse chap manai lairiba miyoi mayam jingse amana amadagi handade amana amadagi su hende mayam jingse chap manai haidana masigi idea se mayam jingsida hek stuck tawdringai di lairiba masigi inequality se still exist tawraga laigani haibani sida harisi. And establishing equality in a democratic society is a continuous struggle and one in which individuals as well as various communities in India contribute to, and you will read more about this in this book. Aduna equality ama masagi lairiba adukumba democratic society amada equality ama establish tawba haibase masi lepa nairaroidaba adugumba struggle ama oigani haibani sidaisida hairisi. Maramdi lairiba akoigi government sina laws, programs, schemes kaya marum ama implement tawdana equality haibase laknanaba honaragasu lairiba praja mayam jingsinadi mayam jingse equally oina treated tawba ngamdeba. Masi ngamdabagi maramse kaino saigi praja mayam jingsi attitude se change tawbada yam tapna change tawweba. Aduna mayam jingse discrimination haibase law gi against ani haibase mayam loina makhangi adu khangagasu mayam jingsina lairiba makoigi caste da, religion da, disability da, economic status da adudagidi makoigi sex da base tawrakanda mi jingse still discrimination haibase adum chatharaga lairi. Aduna sigi jingse karamba kandada kokadage haiba matamda akoigi praja mayam jingsina lairiba mi mayam jingsibu hanthana yengaktraba matamda adudagidi lairiba mayam jingsibu treated with dignity amamga loinamak treated tawraba kandada ngasagi lairiba inequality haibase mangkhigani haibaduni sidaisida hairisi. Maramdi saigi laws, programs, schemes sigumba mayam ji kaktangna sufficient oide haibani ko lairiba praja mayam jingse makoigi attitude sisu change tawba ama changi haibani. Aduna ngasai laws, programs, schemes si mayam jingse khatang implement tawbada natana lairiba praja mayam jingse gi attitude sisu change tawrakandada equality haibase exist tawgani haibani natragadi inequality haibase adum still exist tawraga laigani haibani sidaisida hairisi. Adunani democratic society dadi ngasai equality ama establish tawba haibase lepa naidraba adugumba struggle ama oina adum laigani haibaduni sidaisida. Aduna saigi lepa naidraba, that means democratic society dadi equality ama establish tawba haibase lepa nairaroidaba struggle ama adum oiraga laigani haibaduni sidaisida hairisi. I hope you all understood up to this. Then come to your next topic. Issues of equality in other democracies. Haibadi democratic form of government chanarise ekoi India khatangda nate atopa country kaya marum dasu democratic form of government kaya marum amlay. That means democracies haibasi chatpa country kaya marum amalay. Aduna asaigi ekoi democratic form of government oriba, that means democracy chatliba ekoi Indian government si khaktangda equality gi lairiba adugumba problems siguma mayam jingsi khakhtang leibra haidana mayamna khanarangani ko adudo lali haibani ko haibadi sai democracy chatpa akhoi India nataba atopa country kaya marum amasu lei makhoi dasu masai gi inequality haibase still exist tawraga lei haibaduni sigi makha tarak paside sida haidus. That means masai gi inequality haibase India da khakhtang da leite. That means equality gi problems ngasai gi inequality haibase India da khakhtang da leite atopa democracy chatpa countries in the su issues of equality se adum exist tawraga lei haibadudi sigi makha tarak paside sida hoji akona discussion tawdise. So student, you have to listen it very carefully. You are probably wondering whether India is the only democratic country in which there is inequalities and where the struggles for equality continues to exist. Aduna sidaisida koigi inequalities amadi struggles for equalities sigise adum exist tawraga laigaduise koigi India si khaktara atopa countries ingdadi tawdabra haibaduni sidaisida koina discussion tawdorise ko. Aduna sigi makha tarakpada koina lakadorise democracy chatpa atopa countries in the su inequality amadi struggle for equality se adum exist tawraga lei haibaduni sida lakadoise ko. The truth is that in many democratic countries around the world, the issues of equality continues to be the key issues around which communities struggles. Aduna democratic countries wariba around the world haibadi apart from India, there are many democratic countries. Makoi dasu issues of equality gi issues e adum makoi gi key issues oina adum chatharaga lei haibadi leiriba aduguma different types of communities mayam gi struggles e anamana issues of equality de loina mak adum oye. Example amoina in United States of America, the African Americans whose ancestors were the slaves who were brought over from Africa continue to describe their lives today as largely unequal. Aduna saigi United States of America sida lairiba adugumba African Americans makoigi ancestors mayamjing makoigi lairiba adugumba ancestors mayamjing se Africa dagi ngasai America sida slaves oina porakhibanina adugumba African Americans mayamjing sina still USA sida makhoi jingsibu kaidoge heba matamda describe their life today as largely unequal. Hojik phawba makoi gi life se unequal oina adum treat tawri hebaduni ko. This despite the fact that there was a movement in the late 1950s to push for equal rights for African Americans. Aduna hojiki hariba masigi problem se adum exist tawraga leibanina 1950 gi late 1950s faida makoina movement ama tawki ko. Koigi movement sina kariki damakta tawgiba movement no haiba matamda chapmanaba right ngasagi African Americans mayamjing sisu atopa Americans mayamjing sina fangneba right siga chapmanaba right fangnana bagi damakta chathagiba aduguma movement amani ko. Aduna masigi movement sigi mamangda kari tawramge African Americans were treated extremely unequally in the United States and denied equality through law. Aduna sigi mamangda di ngasai African Americans mayamjing se treated extremely unequally in the United States. United States ta yamna unequal oina treatment tawiba makoise. Aduga amuk denied equality through law. Law gi mateng dasu makoise equality se denied tawiba. That means saigi lairiba adugumba makalgi African Americans mayamjing se law amadi people mayamjing sina makoisibu unequally treatment tawraga adum lae habani ko ngasagi moment ji mamangdadi. Aduna example amoina when traveling by bus, they either had to sit at the back of the bus or get up from their seat whenever a white person wishes to sit. Makoigi unequally treatment tawbusigi example amoina akoina haiba matamda makoina bus tongaga chatpa matamda lairiba aduguma tongaiba African Americans mayamjingse makoi maningda phamgadabani ngasagi bus sigi. Aduga amuk ngasagi any white person ama lakpa matamda makoina phamamiba seat se makoi hawalaga lepkadobani aduga ngasagi white person jingsi oina phamangadabneba example oina. Aduna siguma makalgi unequally oina treatment se kayamarum mama chatharaga laame habani ko. Aduna sida Rosa Parks haidana miyoi amagi ko magi ngasagi life incident ta based tawba adugumba story matik ama yawre mayamsi amu discussion tawsi ko. Rosa Parks was an African American woman. African American woman ni Rosa Parks haidana haise ko. Aduna mahakna tired from a long day at work, she refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man on 1st December 1955. 1955 ki December 1 sida Saigi Roja Parks hariba nupisina mahaki thabaktagi mahakna wana halakpa matamda saigi mahakna phammiba seat se white man ama lakpa miduna phamge habada mahakna phamandaba hojiki hariba nupisina aduna saigi white man duna phamge haba matamda mahakna phamandabagi damakta magi saigi refusal sina numitsidai sida mahakna tawkiba adugumba refusal sina kedorake started a huge agitation against the unequal ways in which African Americans were treated and which came to be known as the civil rights movement. Aduna ngasai mahaki refusals mahakna ngasai seat to piu haibada mana yagidabase sidagidi kari tawrake haiba matamda agitations kaya marum ama lakreba aduna ngasai lairiba adugumba African Americans mayam jingsigi against the unequal treatment tawrakpase masigi against the huge agitations ama haurakhreba ngasai mahakna adugi refuse tawrakhibase ko aduna ngasai mahakna magi seat se refuse tawre aduna mahaki seat se refuse tawrakhibadagidi makoi jingchi marakta conflict ama thokle masigi conflict se lakpadagidi adugumba African Americans mayam jingchi makoida adugumba unequal treatment tawbase masigi against the agitation ama makoina pangthorakre masigi agitation jibu kari kauge ba matamda civil rights movement kauba adugumba agitation ama pangthoki ko makoina. Now look here. Madugi agitation dubu kari kauge civil rights movement haidana kawi ko. And after that, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, religions or national origins. Aduna ngasai madugi agitation da pakthokraba matungdagidi Americada the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Ngasai Civil Rights Act of 1964 masigi makhada kari lake. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, religions or national origins. Masagi makoy race ta, religion da amadi national origin sida based tawrakanda amaga discriminate tawba haibase masigi thingreba masagi Civil Rights Act of 1964 dagidi America. That means USA da. It also stated that all schools would be open to African American children and that they would no longer have to attend separate schools specially set up for them. Aduga ngasai adugumba race, religion, national origins makoi jidai sida based tawrakanda discriminate tawbase thingbada natana ngasai act sigi makhada kari ataisu hapake haba matamda ngasai schools ngasai African American angang jingidamakta hangba school da angang jingchi larik tamgadabani haidana makoi gi chatnabi ama lairambado madugi chatnabi da loinamak thogaigraga lairiba adugumba African American children khudimakse makoina tamningba school da makoi changaga tamba yabagi ayabadusu sidai pikreba. Adubu, however, despite this, a majority of African Americans continue to be among the poorest in the country. Adubu, saigi makoina angang jingsina tamningba school da makoi changaga tamba yabagi ayaba pire ayaba pijaragasu saigi majority of African Americans saigi African Americans mayam jingsi ki majority di kedore country sidai sida khwaidagi lairaba kangbu ngatane. Now most African American children can only afford to attend government schools that have fewer facilities and poorly qualified teachers as compared to white students who either go to private schools or live in areas where the government schools are as highly rated as private schools. Aduna saigi African Americans mayam jingsidi makoidi anamana lairaba ngatani aduna ngasai African Americans singi makoigi macha masu jingsidi makoidi government school kaktang afford toba ngame haibadi ngasai facility yamna handana laiba adudagidi poor qualified teachers mayam ama laiba ngasai adugumba white students mayam jingsina tammiba adugumba private schools iga compare toba matamda yamna handaba adugumba government school da kaktang oina tamba ngamame haibani ko ngasai African American children jingse aduga amu ngasai lairiba adugumba ngasai white children mayamjing, that means ngasai white students mayamjing sina makhoi da namana private school da loina mak tamme, aduga amuk ngasai white students jing sina private school da nattaba makhoi na government school da tamge hairaga su ngasai white students mayamjing sina hena settle tawraga leiba ngasai private school jing sidagi amuk hena faba adugumba government schools mayamjing aduna sigumba ngasai white mayamjing sina hena settle tawraga leiba adugumba jagada leiba government school private school dagi hena faba adugumba government school natraga ngasai government school dagi hena faba adugumba private school sigumba mayamjing sida tambagi chance white student mayamjing sina loina mu fangami ko aduga African Americans mayamjing sidi makoi di lairabanina facilities yamna handaba amadi qualified teachers yamna leitaba adugumba government school da ngakto ina tamba fangami haibaduni sida isida haris haibadi ngasai American government na Civil Rights Act of 1964 haibase masigi makada discrimination prohibit tauba atigi angang jingsina makoigi tamningba school da tamba yaba haidana makoina law kaya marum mama pass makoina law kaya marum mama sema agasu lairaba oirubanina discrimination dudi still exist tawraga lay inequality still exist tawi haibaduni sigi matik sida isida haris. I hope you all understood up to this. Then look here, Indian Constitution ki Article 15 da kadi yauge haibaduni sida harise ko sigi amta nate ekoina mamangda hojiki saigi mamangda tamgiba adugumba koina discussion tawkraba adugumba provisions of the Indian Constitutions adugi jingduni sida harise ko aduna sida lairiba adugi ngasai Indian Constitution dagi lauthorokpa adugumba Article 15 Article 15 da hairiba jingsi kai kaino haiba matamda sa akoina mamangda explain tawraba mayamduni ko aduna amuktanga revise tawsi prohibitions of discrimination on grounds of religions, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Sagi lairiba religion da, race da, caste da, sex da natraga birth da sida base tawrakanda discriminate tawba haibase prohibit tawba. And sagi state jingsina shall not discriminate against any citizens on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. Aduna ngasai state sina sigumba lairiba religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them sigumba mayamjing sida base tawrakanda discriminate tawba haibase sagi state jingsina discriminate tawidobani haiba ma yaure adligidi amuk sagi citizen khudimak makoigi religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them be subject to any disability, liability, restriction or condition with regard to sagi lairiba citizen khudimak sida lairiba adugumba conditions mayamjing sida base tawrakanda adugumba citizens mayamjing je makoina access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment siguma mayamjing se access tawba matamda ekoina thingwaidobani adu natraga makoina wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resorts maintained wholly for all or partly out of state funds or dedicated to the use of the general public. Sagi lairiba public wells, tanks, bathing ghats, road places sagi lairiba public places khudimak se access tawba matamda any citizens khudimak makoigi religion da, race da, caste da, sex da, place of birth da siguma mayamjing sida base tawrakanda any public places khudimak any praja amana makoin access tawba matamda ekoina thingwaidobani haibaduni sida hairisi sagi Article 15 of the Indian Constitution sida hairisi aduna akoina mamangda su discussion tawrabanina I hope you all understood this excerpt from Article 15 of the Indian Constitutions. And then this is your last topic, challenge of democracy. Democracy da leiba adugumba challenge ingsi kai kaino haibaduni ko. No country can be described as being completely democratic. Country khudimak completely democratic oi haidana describe tawba yaroi ko. Aduni sida harisi there are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new ideas. Aduna communities amadi lairiba individuals mayam jingsina ngasai gi democracy gi ideas e makoin expand tawnanaba ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯔꯝꯃꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯔꯝꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯑꯣꯜꯔꯦꯗꯤ ꯂꯩꯈ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯏꯁꯨꯁ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯑꯅꯧ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯏꯁꯨꯁ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯁꯦꯝꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯏꯟꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯂꯤꯇꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯒ꯭ꯔꯦꯇꯔ ꯔꯤꯀꯣꯛꯅꯦꯁꯟ ꯂꯩꯅꯅꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯀꯟꯅ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯩꯌꯦꯕ ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛꯇ ꯋꯦꯗꯔ ꯗꯦ ꯑꯥꯔ ꯗꯦꯚꯦꯂꯞ country or whether they are developing country ko develop country oigera adudagidi developing country oigera democratic oiba completely democratic oiba country habase exist tawde habadi still inequality habase still adum exist tawraga lay aduna democratic completely oiba country amata laite aduna ngasai communities mayamjing amadi individuals mayamjing sina democracy gi idea se makoin expand tawnana ba honai aduga makoin already laigraba issues amadi anongnaba issues kaya marum mama semgatlaga recognitions of greater recognitions of equality se habadi ngasai equality habase mayamjing sigi marakta inequality se pura muthatkhraga equality habase totally exist tawnana ba yam kanna honorami haibaduni sida harisi and central to this is the struggle for the recognitions of all persons as equal and for their dignity to be maintained aduna sida mahang harisi kaino aba matamda struggles for the recognitions of all persons as equals and for their dignity to be maintained aduna ngasai lairiba miyoi khudimak each and every individuals khudimak mayamjing sibu chapmanaba miting da yengnanaba amadi makoi gi dignity jingsibu maintain tawnanaba struggle tawba haibase masidi lepa laitana struggle tawgadawbani haibani maramdi inequality haibase adum still exist tawraga leibanina struggle tawdragadi equality haibase porpa ngamoi haibaduni sida hairis. So student, with this we have completed your chapter number 1. I hope you all understood what we have learned or what we have explained so far. Your remaining chapters will explain in upcoming videos.